Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it's an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today as we talk about all our favorite stuff going on in the world of movies. Here's how today's show is going to go. I have picked out 3 topics that you guys have emailed into me to let me know you want us to talk about. How do you get an email, topic, or question on the John Campea Show? It's easy. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Make sure you put that word topic in the subject line. That way I know you're sending me a question for the show. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less. As short as possible is the best. Then I'm going to take a few minutes, take some live questions, and then we will call it a day. So before we get rolling on everything, guys, I went to go see Black Panther again last night. Crazy experience. The audience I saw it with, every audience is different. Just you could be in the same movie theater and you're in one screen and there could be another audience watching the same movie on another screen. And one audience may hate it, one audience may love it. So I can't speak for any of the movie theaters that you may have been in last night. But it was great energy in the theater I was in last night. I was over at the AMC Burbank 16. Ran into one of my Patreon supporters, actually, whose name is also John. Came up and introduced himself there last night, which was always great. But the theater I was in last night just went bananas. Just went bananas for the movie. Here's an interesting thing, though, that I was not expecting. They played a bunch of trailers before Black Panther. And a lot of them some very, very good ones, right? But the 2 trailers that got the biggest pop from the audience were not 2 trailers that I would have thought would have gotten the biggest pop from the audience. And there were some big major trailers that played. And the 2 trailers that got the biggest pop from the audience, number 2 was Ant-Man and the Wasp. I wasn't expecting, because, I like the trailer. I'm a huge Ant-Man fan. I love the first Ant-Man movie. And I thought the first trailer for this new movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp, was good. But I didn't think it was great. But I'm telling you, that trailer played. And the moment that trailer ended, the audience was like, woo! Really? And they weren't doing that for other trailers. But the one that got the most pop, that I also thought was a good trailer, but not great, was the Solo: A Star Wars Story trailer. That got the biggest pop in my theater, at least at any rate, out of all the trailers that played. And, I'm looking forward to Solo: A Star Wars Story. I thought the trailer was good, but, I didn't think it was great. And it was just funny that these 2 movies that I thought had good trailers, not necessarily great ones, were the ones that got the biggest pop in a same trailer run that had some trailers that I thought were great. So anyway, that was just kind of an interesting thing. And of course, Black Panther, the reports are they're estimating made $25 million on its premiere night, which would put it just behind Avengers Age of Ultron, which was 27.5. That number could be adjusted, though. So big things happening for Black Panther. I had a great time. And hey, guys, just so you know, I know a lot of you saw it last night. Don't forget, we are going to do our spoiler review on Saturday. Some channels like to put up their spoiler reviews the minute the movie opens in theaters. I like to give people a little bit of a chance to see the movie first, but we're going to do our open spoiler. We're going to do a live open spoiler discussion review of Black Panther Saturday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 5 p.m. East Coast time. So you got all last night, all today, all matinees tomorrow to have a chance to make sure you see it and you can join us for that spoiler discussion review. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. All right. With that out of the way, let's jump into the first topic today. And the first topic today comes to us all the way from Randy K. London. Oh, Randy K. in London, Ontario. I love London, Ontario. That's where, I believe that's where Ryan Gosling is from, is London, Ontario. I dated a girl from London, Ontario. Anyway, hi, John. Love the show. Thank you so much, Randy. After seeing the Marvel 10-year picture and noticing Joss Whedon is even there, though he left because of problems, do you think Joss will ever come back and make another Marvel movie? Thanks a lot for the question, Randy from London, Ontario. And it is crazy how many people I have seen tweeting asking that question, because they saw Joss Whedon in the 10-year picture. Now, had people been at the Black Panther, I don't think I've talked about this before, but I was at the Black Panther premiere, and we're sitting there, and, you know, a bunch of Marvel people are there. And about 2 minutes before the movie starts, Walking down the aisle, just a few seats over from me, comes Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon was at the premiere. They invited Joss Whedon to be there at the premiere of Black Panther. And the moment he came in, like already there was Jon Favreau. Just these guys were all like 15 feet from me. Jon Favreau, James Gunn, Taika Waititi. I think there's one or two others. But Whedon comes down and this conclave of directors starts standing around talking to each other like, wow. So, I mean, if everybody had seen pictures of that, I would have taken a picture of it, except they don't let us bring our phones into the premieres. If people had seen that and then seen Whedon in the 10th anniversary picture, even though there's a lot of people tweeting right now and asking me in email, stuff like that, wait a minute, Joss Whedon's in that picture. Could he be coming back? It would have been times 10 if people saw that picture that I saw at the Black Panther premiere. And it's important to keep in mind, there is this common understanding out there that Whedon left because there was a big falling out between him and Marvel, when in actuality, that's not true. I had always heard that wasn't true. I heard he was just stressed. I mean, because you could physically see on Joss Whedon, right after Avengers and right after Avengers Age of Ultron, he looked like he was 3 steps away from death. I mean, it just destroyed him. He was so fatigued and whatever. But anyway, Joss Whedon, back in 2016, Joss Whedon made these comments about, leaving Marvel. And this is what he said back in 2016. I was their sort of consigliere for a while. I sort of had my finger in all of the films in the second phase. But then I just had to concentrate only on Ultron and sort of know that when it was done, I was just going to stop. So I made a completely clean break. Not because we had a falling out, just because I was like, I can't. If I was still there going, well, here are my thoughts on this film, I'd be there every day. I wouldn't do anything else. He goes on to say, because there's a lot of films and it's a lot of fun. It's very seductive. When you can put your little fairy dust on things and just improve them slightly, and they actually listen to you, I was a script doctor for a long time, and the part where they listen to you is very rare. So it was important for me for my own self, to just go, no, we can still be friends, but. So that's Whedon's comments on all that. And there's a few things in these comments that I think add to the fire that maybe he could consider coming back, but also I think, douse the fire of the idea that he might come back. On the idea of those comments adding to the fire of the thought that he could come back to Marvel is this. One of the things that he really highlighted in those comments was that Marvel listened to me. And I remember listening to Kevin Feige, and he kind of thought the best parts of Thor: The Dark World were the parts that they flew Joss Whedon in to do some rewrites on some scenes, and Feige thought those scenes were the best parts of Thor: The Dark World, which overall was not one of Marvel's stronger films. But Feige seemed to think that, for a long time, it did really seem like Joss Whedon was Kevin Feige's right-hand man when it came to navigating the story of the MCU. And they trusted him. They brought him in. They had him doing overpasses on the scripts of their other movies that he wasn't even directing. And the big thing there that Whedon says, and he repeated it a couple times in those comments, is they listened to me. I would give suggestions and, they would actually listen to me? What? I don't think he's had that same experience over at Warner Brothers with DC. Because we know, from certain reports in the trades that Whedon had asked, can we push this movie to 2018? I cannot finish this movie the way you want it finished. If we keep it in 2017, can we push it? And they, no. It's all right. Whereas over at Marvel, he had an experience as a creative that they actually listened to him. I'm sure they didn't take every suggestion he wanted. There's a famous story that Joss Whedon really wanted Wasp instead of Black Widow in the first Avengers movie. He wanted Wasp in that movie, not Black Widow. Kevin Feige and Marvel overrode him. So obviously they didn't take everything he wanted, but Whedon just goes on to say, they listened to me. So that could add to it. What takes away from the idea that he could return is the notion that just what he said. He said, when I was at Marvel, it was all consuming. And if you were one of the people who got to sit down with Joss Whedon during those times, you could see the physical toll it was taking on him. It was taking a real physical toll on him. And that would probably be challenging for everybody. Now, would he want to dive back into that? Well, it has been a couple of years. As of right now, if you look on his IMDb page, there's really nothing else he has coming up except for a rumored Batgirl film, which I don't actually think is going to happen. So, is it possible he could be returning? These are the first public appearances we've seen of Joss Whedon at these Marvel events in a while. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say seeing Whedon show up at the premiere and seeing Whedon in a 10th anniversary picture, I believe is not enough to really justify a honest, legitimate question of, could he be returning? I don't think that's enough to do that. However, I do think it's enough to at least raise the question. You know, we hadn't seen him with Marvel in a while. Suddenly now he's back in a couple of things. He doesn't have anything else upcoming on his IMDb page. I don't know. I mean, it's possible. I still wouldn't put my money on it. I just saw it take too much of a toll on him, so I wouldn't put my money on it, but certainly it's possible. We'll have to keep our eyes on that in the near future. But what do you guys think? Do you think Whedon will be coming? I got to admit, though, I did see one interesting comment. Somebody says, good, I want Joss Whedon to go back to Marvel so he won't ruin DC. To me, that's like saying, I don't want that mechanic working on my car. He'll ruin the car. Meanwhile, the car is already this big, huge car wreck. That's just a big ball of twisted metal and broken glass on the side of the road. Yep, wouldn't want him to ruin that. Anyway, and I like the DC movies, but their state of affairs is a mess right now. Anyway, okay, let's move on to the next question. And the next question writes, from Matthew B. Huge fan of your show. Thank you so much, Matthew. I am a major Academy Awards nerd and find it interesting that people are so quick to hate on them and try to lessen their value when they are supposed to be a celebration of film. What is your hot take on this? Also, should award shows be less political? Well, here's the reality. The reality is the award shows aren't really all that political. Look, aside from commentary that gets made from the stages and stuff like that, but hey, these are people who live in this world, and if they want to make commentary on this world, you do. You make commentary on important events in the world on your social media and your platforms. Actors, producers, directors, they make commentary on things going on in the world that are important to them from their platforms. Their platforms just happen to be bigger than ours, but if they want to do that, that's fine. I don't encourage it, but I don't really care one way or the other. The whole notion, though, about hey man, Academy Awards is supposed to be a big celebration of film. Why do some people get so quick to hate on it? To me, there's really one simple answer to that. And it's this. The Academy Awards are going to give the award for Best Picture to one movie. One movie out of the 500 feature-length films that got produced this year, they're going to give it to one. Only a small percentage of people will agree with that one. Because there are like 499 other films out there, right? And it is our human nature that when an award gets given, not to the body or person or movie that we wanted it given to, we complain. That's what we do. I do it, you do it, we all do it. I mean, that's a human nature, man. It is what we do. We are a species of complainers. We are. And that's a good thing in some ways. And it's a bad thing in other ways. But we are a species of complainers. So when something doesn't go our way, when something doesn't go the way we think it should go, particularly in the context of like a movie award show or something like that, and the right person doesn't get the award that we thought should have got it, then we get up in arms and we complain, and then we'll start making up excuses. It's political, or these people don't know what they're talking about, or these guys are bought off, or blah, blah, blah. As soon as something doesn't go the way we think it should go, we start coming up with all these excuses, and it becomes a huge thing. And the funny thing is, let's say movie A wins the award. Well, the people who are supporting movie B are going to complain, but then the people who are supporting movie C are going to complain as well, and movie D and movie E. They're all going to complain, but if any one of the other ones won it, then everybody else would be complaining about that one. It is part of human nature. And I hope there's a way around that. I don't see there being a really clear, obvious way around that. It just kind of seems to be part of the reality about what it means to be a film fan these days, is that when it comes to the Academy Awards, a certain percentage of people will be happy with the results. A larger percentage of people will not be happy with the results, and thus, instead of just accepting that somebody else won than the person or thing that I wanted to win won, instead of just accepting that, we'll come up about why the process itself is fake or political, or come up with a whole bunch of other different excuses. And there are Oscar things that I'm not happy with. I am not happy that Patrick Stewart did not get nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I believe that was a clear nomination that he should have got, but he didn't. So I just have to accept, hey, they saw it differently than I did. And now I can just enjoy the rest of the Oscars. But it is a trigger kind of event. It really is. And it gets some people riled up. So, hey, I guarantee you the Academy Awards would rather have people feel passionate about them, even if it's negatively sometimes, than not caring at all. And people certainly get passionate about the Academy Awards. All right, let's move on now to the final emailed in question today. And this one comes to us from Chuck Petty, who writes, "Hey, John, what do you think about Natalie Portman wanting to be in the new Thor? Or wanting to be the new Thor? Portman coming back as Jane Foster in DCEU story, the original Sin storyline, in a movie would be awesome." All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yeah, there have been a whole bunch of things on social media, and I've seen flying around the web, of Natalie Portman wants back in Thor. And, either to be Thor or just come back in Thor or whatever. Because I believe there's a stint in the comics where, Jane Foster actually becomes Thor. Anyway, so a lot of people are saying she wants to come back. And I'm just like, really? Okay, so here's the thing. Start following. I'm always telling you guys, when you see a story, follow the source. Like if Screen Rant writes a story, don't just say, see if Screen Rant is sourcing somebody else. Screen Rant says, according to this site, they're saying this. And then keep following the string until you get to the actual source of where did this come from. Sometimes it'll come from Ass Backwards Nobody blog that some guy just threw up a rumor. Sometimes it'll come from one of the major trades, like, the Wrap or Variety, the Hollywood Reporter, and so on. And then you know how much value you should give it. But so I started doing this thing about, okay, all these people are saying Natalie Portman says she wants back in Thor. So I started following it back. Here's the quote, okay? Natalie Portman was promoting Annihilation, which is coming up here. And somebody asked her about, would you come back to Thor? This is what Natalie Portman said. The actual quote she said was, "I'm completely open to everything, but I have no news about that," Portman said with a laugh. Again, "I'm completely open to everything, but I have no news about that." So some people took that quote and ran with, Natalie Portman wants back in Thor, or slightly more tempered, Natalie Portman says she's open to coming back for Thor. I don't think Natalie Portman is open to coming back for Thor. And notice what she said. She simply said, I'm open to anything. She wasn't just talking about Thor. As an actress, as a professional actress, what are you going to do? When somebody asks you a question like that, you're not going to burn bridges. You're not going to close doors. You say, hey, I'm open to everything. That doesn't mean she's really open to everything. She says, I'm open to everything. So, no, I don't believe that Natalie Portman really wants to come back to Thor. I never got the sense from her, even when and she is one of my favorite actresses out there, but I never got the sense from her, even when I interviewed her, that she was all that excited about being in Thor in the first place. And quite frankly, it wasn't a good match. And the character wasn't a good character to have there. And quite frankly, I thought one of the things that made Thor Ragnarok so good was her absence. Not that Natalie Portman isn't supremely talented. Obviously she is. But the character itself, I thought, was kind of dead weight around the neck of the movie. The character, regardless of what actress you put in there, that wasn't Natalie Portman's fault. Natalie Portman is a supreme level actress. She's stupid talented. But really, when I actually just read the quote in context, like she goes, I'm open to everything, but I got no news about that, and brushed it off and moved on to something else. I just think we're reading too much into that, saying, Natalie's open to coming back for Thor? I really don't think we should take that away. I don't think that should be the takeaway from that. But anyway, just my thoughts on it. All right, guys, we've reached that part of the show now where I'm going to take some of your live questions. But before I do that, let me do my admittedly shameless 1-minute plug here for something that keeps the lights on around here, and that is my Patreon campaign. So here, check this out. I'll be back in just 1 minute. For those of you who have followed me for any period of time, you guys know that I made the decision recently to leave the corporate overlords. I no longer wanted to work for corporations. I wanted to be an independent content creator. And the only way I've been able to do that is by the support of my Patreon supporters. So what I would like to do is to ask you guys who watch my shows, who spend any amount of time with me every single month, to consider going over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. There you'll get all the information about what exactly does it mean to be a Patreon supporter of mine? What does being a Patreon supporter do for helping to make sure that shows like this one and all the other shows I do here on my channel can actually be produced? And on top of that, what benefits are there to being a Patreon supporter? And maybe if you guys can check that out, if you decide you want to be one of my Patreon supporters, that would be awesome. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine too. I'm just happy that you guys have decided to be here today and be a fellow movie fan and join us in the conversation. So go and check out the website, see if you want to become a Patreon supporter. And now let's get back. Get my microphone turned back on. A special thank you to all of you guys who are already Patreon supporters of mine. Thank you so much. You guys are the reason my channel even exists. All right, with that out of the way, let's move on now to the live questions. By the way, guys, I already have all the live questions I can handle. If you have not sent in a live question yet, cut them off. No more live questions, guys. If you see somebody starting to type a live question, stop them. Stop them immediately because I got all the ones that I can handle. All right, let's get on over to live chat here. And in the live chat, we've got Mason Barr who writes, Black Panther starts soon, and after that, Planet Comic-Con. Jason, David Frank, Alan Tudyk, Mark Shepard, Chris Sabat, many others. See you hero tonight. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, Mason. I'm assuming that means you're going to go see Black Panther tonight, in which case, have a good time, have a lot of fun. And I'm not quite sure what Comic-Con you're referring to. Is there actually a Comic-Con called Planet Comic-Con? If so, I'm not familiar with it. Jump in the chat board. Just let everybody know where that is and give it a little pop. Let's see if other people want to go to it. Jacob Vanco writes, I started a petition to end your petition to end movie petitions. You're going down, Campea. Would a new James Cameron Terminator retcon or reboot? So first of all, what he's referring to is I started getting sick and tired of all these petitions. Fans started putting up I want them to do this in this movie. And they started a petition like they should have a say. And I finally got frustrated with it. So I finally put up a petition to stop movie petitions. And I put that up. Anyway, it was just out of frustration one day, but it was in fun. From what I understand, it's the new James Cameron Terminator that he won't be directing, by the way. But the new James Cameron Terminator that he's producing, from what I understand, is it's a bit of a retcon. Like, I believe it's supposed to be a pure sequel to Terminator 2. If I remember correctly, and I might not be remembering correctly, I'm just going off the top of my head here. If I remember correctly, I think it just ignores the Terminators that came after Terminator 2. And it just picks up from there. I think it's a neat idea. I'm very curious to see what they do with that. Ben Rayner writes, thoughts on Anna Kendrick. I love Anna Kendrick. I adore Anna Kendrick. I think she is so... You know, some actresses, the word cute, and I mean that in the best possible way, cute, just embodies them. Anna Kendrick is so cute. I mean, she's great. She's got this great charisma about her. She's really quirky. She's a beautiful singer, like just a gorgeous singing voice. I remember she was at a party I threw at Comic-Con one year. She was there with Edgar Wright because her and Edgar Wright were dating at the time, I believe. And she's beautiful and charming and all this kind of stuff. And I think she's a really talented actress as well. She's got an Academy Award nomination for Up in the Air, which I thought she had a legitimate shot at winning. She didn't win, of course, but I like her a lot. Who would have known this girl that nobody had ever heard of before, who is just Bella's high school buddy in the Twilight movies, would just emerge as a global superstar? And I'm really happy for her. I think she's great. Slim Jimmy writes, would you ever consider doing comic book reviews? No, I wouldn't. And here's why. My assessment, and maybe my assessment is off. It's possible. My assessment is that not enough people, if you look at the number of people who actually go to movies versus the number of people who actually will go to a comic book store and buy comic books, it's very much uneven, right? And what I have found a lot too is that the people who are comic book readers generally don't often like flood on like people who watch movies love going online to see what's being talked about in movies. What I found is that a lot of comic book readers not all of them, obviously, but I found like a good number of comic book readers don't necessarily have that same pattern and don't necessarily flood online to start reading about what other people are saying about comic books. And I remember when I was back at the last place I worked at, they wanted to do a show that really focused on comic books, not comic book movies, not comic book. They wanted to do one on comic books. And I remember I said no to it because as I look around, I don't see a lot of really popular comic book centric material. I thought it was too outside of our wheelhouse. And I thought there's not, the audience isn't there for it. A big enough audience isn't there, particularly for the amount of resources and the amount of money they wanted to put into it. I didn't think the potential audience was there to justify that spend of resources and that spend of money. And it wasn't because I don't love comic books, and it wasn't because I don't love the comic book community. It's just that I didn't think that such a show could generate the views to justify the amount of resources that they wanted to put into it. That's it. I mean, it was just strictly on a business sense. Keeping that philosophy, I just don't believe that if I were to do comic book reviews, that they would actually get all that many views. Now, yes, you can point out to a couple, like a minor handful of some YouTubers that really do focus on comic books, and they do pretty well. But when you're talking about the grand thing, like that's not enough. If you could point to me 50 comic book YouTubers who all have 1 million plus subscribers, then that shows me there's a big enough pool that if I were to put that kind of energy into doing those videos, then maybe I would get viewers. But again, just straight comic book reviews is outside of my wheelhouse. My wheelhouse is movies. My wheelhouse is television. Like somebody like a John Schnepp, who is well-versed, and his wheelhouse is definitively comic books. He wanted to do something like that, that would be different. But to me, there's just not a big enough demographic of potential audience that I think would justify me putting in the energy and the resources into making those videos. And especially when you're considering it's a little bit outside my wheelhouse and what my audience come to me for. My audience comes to me to talk about movies. So, there's a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. And again, that's not a knock at all on comic books or the comic book community. I love them both. It's just that I realize I don't think that me creating that kind of content would get the results that would justify the time, energy, and effort I would need to put into making those videos when I could be making those videos about the things that are in my wheelhouse, movies and some television and things like that. So anyway, that's my thought on that. Great question, Slim. And you're not the first person to ask me that. That's why I thought I would take a minute and address that. So fair question, man. Let's see. Rex Cousins writes, John, saw Black Panther and I was disappointed. I think my expectations were too high, which affected the way I felt about Black Panther. Has this ever happened to you? Oh, I'm sure it does. Yeah. I don't think it's a matter of having too high expectations. I think what it is that we go in with certain expectations about what is going to be in this movie. And when it turns out to be something else, it jars us, and it's jarring. It's a totally natural thing for any film fan, and all film is subjective. So look, not everybody's going to walk into Black Panther. See, to me, one of the things that makes Black Panther so good, because I heard one friend of mine kind of criticize that he would have liked to have seen more action. I thought there was a very good amount of action in it and a very good amount of straight narrative storytelling. And I loved the balance between the two. But that's not going to be for everybody. So, hey, man, that sucks that you didn't have as good of an experience as the rest of us, but it's totally understandable. Totally understandable why. Haskell writes, completely oppositely, apparently. Haskell 420 writes, hey, John, good morning. Black Panther's incredible. I tweeted you last night after I got home, unless you muted me for some reason. Hey, man, no, don't worry about it, but I literally get about 400 to 500 people tweeting me a day. So I may not catch every single one that comes in, but don't worry, that doesn't mean you're muted. Acting, writing, character development, off the charts. Coogler crushed it. That's 3 great films in a row. For Coogler? Yeah. Because Coogler is the new Ben Affleck in the sense that he's this young director coming out of nowhere and he's just putting out quality stuff. Because you start with Fruitvale Station, then you go to Creed, now you come to Black Panther, absolutely crushed it. And I agree with you, the writing was fantastic. The acting was stellar. The character development was wonderful. I also love just what they did with Wakanda. They really let us understand what Wakanda is. And I felt like we were there. And that becomes important because if you don't understand Wakanda, then you won't, as an audience member, fully appreciate what it is they're fighting for. And I love that they did that. So I ate it up. Not everybody will agree, clearly, because as we saw from Rex's message, which is totally fair, But yeah, I'm with you on that one, Haskell. I had just a marvelous time at it. Just loved it. Ben Rayner writes, what are your thoughts on the rumor that Jon Favreau is Jabba in Solo? Like this rumor? Well, there came out, it's a several stages of a rumor. There came out some reports that Jon Favreau may be doing the voice of an alien character in Solo, a Star Wars story. And then people start speculating it'll be Jabba. Why? Because Jon Favreau's heavy? I honestly, I give it no attention. I've paid no attention to that at all. Look, that's not to say it's not possible. Of course it's possible. But until something a little more definitive comes out about that, I'm not going to pay much attention to it, to be honest with you. Johnny Mija writes, have you seen the Cobra Kai new trailer, Karate Kid series on YouTube? I did. I'm going to be very unpopular here. I thought it was terrible. I thought it was just awful, to be honest with you. If you go back and watch my video that I did when they first announced it, I was very excited. But it looks cheap as hell. And it seems like they're completely backwalking on the character development of the Johnny character. Because to me, one of the really feel great things about the Johnny character is that at the end of Karate Kid, look, Johnny is a misguided kid. He's not an evil kid. And that really comes out near the end of the film when, you see him starting to question and doubt the brutal tactics of his sensei, right? And that culminates finally in the end when Johnny himself, comes up. I think it was Johnny who handed Daniel the trophy too, and gave him a hug and said, "You're all right. Like, you're good." Like, there was great character. There was a character journey even for the villain, this Johnny kid. And one of the things that really turned me off about this new trailer is it seems like they completely walked that back and say, nope, he's just a product of what his sensei was. And to me, that didn't feel right. The trailer itself felt very cheap. So while I'm still very curious to see it, I'll be honest with you, I was kind of turned off by the trailer. And I know a lot of people were very excited about it, but I just gotta be honest with you. Even though I'm excited about it and I got all pumped up about it, I gotta admit, I felt a little bit let down by the trailer. But that's just me. You may have loved it, and that's awesome if you did. That's just, I didn't, and that's the reason why I didn't. Nathan C. writes, filthy fan since The Dark Knight Rises 2012 at AMC. Awesome, man. Never money to properly thank you. You don't need money to thank me. Come on, man. Heard about Alexander Daddario / Sebastian Stan in We Have Always Lived in the Castle, based on the book of the author of The Haunting. It's in post. I have not. I remember I did a story about Alexander Daddario a while ago. I think I saw that was one of her upcoming projects, but honestly, I really don't know anything else about it. I certainly don't know anything about the book that it's supposedly based on. So other than the fact that I know she's got a movie, and I believe that was the title, pardon me, I believe that was the title of one of the ones I was looking at. Other than that, I'm not really versed in what this particular project is about. But who doesn't love Alexandra Daddario? Come on, man. The Kosan writes, I know we're excited for Borg / Macro. Damn right I was. Did you get around to seeing it? If so, what did you think of the movie? I never had a chance to see it. I have still not seen Borg McEnroe. And that, more than almost any other film of 2017, is the one that bugs me the most, and I haven't seen it. And I gotta see this movie. Now, my vacation threw a big wrench in that. There were some opportunities to see it while I was away, but I just never got caught up in wanting to see it. And I think that movie looks spectacular. And regardless of how crazy he may be, why am I forgetting the name of the Transformers kid? Why am I suddenly forgetting his name? I'm forgetting his name, but anyway, whatever. Regardless of how crazy he comes across, I actually think he's a really good actor. He's a very good actor. Shia LaBeouf. There it is. Sorry, it just came back to me. I actually think he's a fantastic actor. I think he's a wonderful actor. But I can't wait to see it, but no, I have not seen it yet. Great Owl Laud writes, saw a documentary on how ships are made. Riveting. You know what? Documentaries are wonderful. I love documentaries because you can find a documentary. Like, remember King of Kong? Who would have ever thought a documentary about grown-ass men who played Donkey Kong? Who would have thought that sounded like a good idea? But in the hands of a good documentary filmmaker, it becomes riveting. It becomes unbelievable. I'm going to talk in a minute here about a new documentary too in just a second, but I'll get around to that. But yeah, like documentaries are great because it can be about anything. And if it's done right, stories can become so compelling. I've never heard of whatever documentary this is you're talking about, Geek Out, but good on you for checking out documentaries. Moeen Khan writes, Yo, John, where the Soul Stone at? You know what? I've never even theorized about that. Unfortunately, it's probably somewhere on Earth. I don't know how all of them end up on Earth, but honestly, I really don't have much of a theory. I've seen many, many people theorizing about that. Some people think they know. I'm not really sure. And I'm just kind of sitting back. I'm trying not to engage in too much speculation about it, even though speculation is part of my job. I'm just kind of waiting for Infinity War to get here to see how they engage in that. But that Marine is one of the it's the Who Shot JR of the comic book movie world right now. And a lot of people are asking that same question. Everybody keep speculating in the comment section. Luke1234 writes, how do you feel about the way South Park portrays Canadians? I think it's fun. Look, South Park makes fun of everybody and everything. They attack conservatives. They attack progressives. They attack the left. They attack the right. They attack straight people. They attack gay people. They attack every nationality. And they certainly poke a hell of a lot of fun at Canadians. But I have always taken it's in fun. And I actually get a big giggle out of it. One of my favorite South Park episodes, actually of all time, is Canada on Strike. What is it? We're Canada on strike. It's time we said no more. We want respect and something. That's what we're fighting for. I mean, I love the stuff they do in Canada. Yes, it's making fun of Canada, but it's in fun. And so on that level, I've always really appreciated it. Really Tired 64 writes, over under 48 hours, the time it takes Star Wars fans to reject Ron Howard and Solo and start demanding the non-existent Lord and Miller cut. I'm going to take the under. I will take the under on that. It is crazy in the past 6 or 7 years, particularly how entitled a lot of fandom seems to have become. But who knows? Maybe Solo will be amazing and it'll blow everybody away and everybody will say, no, this is awesome. Maybe the movie won't be all that good. I mean, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But I like your comment. That's funny. Luke1234 writes, which actor would you like to see make a comeback? Peter Weller for me. Well, Peter Weller, if I'm thinking of the right guy, he had a great stint on Sons of Anarchy. What actor would I like to see make a comeback? Sorry, man. I would have to actually sit around now, think about actors that I really like that haven't done anything in a long time. Blah, blah. The one guy I can think about off the top of my head, because I haven't seen him in a while, is David Morse. David Morse, I believe, is probably the number one most underrated character actor of all time. I love David Morse. And I haven't seen him in much lately, so unless he's on some television show that I don't watch. But again, that's too much. I would have to sit down and really think that one out. But Peter Weller's a great name. Maybe one name writes, morning, John. I was lucky to see Black Panther last night, and I have to say I was a little underwhelmed. Good movie, but it didn't strike me as anything special, especially coming from Marvel. 7 out of 10. Again, that's what's going to happen, man. It's not going to be for everybody. I did not agree with all the people who gave those early reactions saying it's the best Marvel movie ever. I didn't agree with that. You know I didn't agree with that. It's my favorite since Civil War, but I don't put I don't put Black Panther on the same level as Avengers or Civil War or Winter Soldier or the first Thor movie. But I think it's really damn good. But to everybody, you still like it, clearly. You give it a 7 out of 10, so clearly you still like it. But, it's not going to hit everybody the same way. And that's the beautiful thing about movies. Let's see here. Chris Miller writes, best John Hughes film, Breakfast Club is mine. Breakfast Club is a hard one to argue against. Don't you forget about me. As they're walking along and he puts his fist up in the air. That's a hard one to go against. And the 16 Candles is real good. I love Breakfast Club, so I'm going to stick with you. I'm going to go with Breakfast Club. Luis Francisco writes, John, love the show. I hope you never stop doing it. Well, thank you so much, Luis. I really appreciate that. I hope I never stop doing it either, because I don't want to work in law again. Nathan C. writes, why no love for The Shadow 94? My favorite hero film. Go rewatch it post Marvel. A witty mirror of Doctor Strange, but with better music and more quotable lines. Nathan, you must not have been watching me for a long time because I will mention The Shadow with Alec Baldwin, and I'm name freezing a lot today. Ian McKellen. Ian McKellen, Gandalf Magneto himself, is actually in that movie. He plays the girl's dad. I adore The Shadow. I bring up The Shadow every once in a while. So you must not have been watching me for a long time because I do bring up The Shadow. The Shadow nose. It's like, really? His nose gets bigger. That's the big transformation. He puts a thing up and you can see that his nose gets bigger. And there's so much cheesiness in that movie, but you're right. There's a lot of great quotable lines. If you haven't watched The Shadow, treat yourself. Watch The Shadow. It's a lot of fun. And remember, it was done before the big spur of the superhero movies these days. It's really, really great. Luis Francisco writes, will Aaron Taylor Johnson be on the next Godzilla? It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, let's face it. He had a lot of screen time, but the character wasn't that important to the movie. I really like Aaron Taylor Johnson as an actor very much. But I don't see a need for him to be there. So, and you know what? Who knows? Maybe I'm just forgetting that it's already been announced that he's going to be in it. And I don't know. But honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. I kind of hope he's not because I don't think they need it. But who knows? Maybe they will. Christian Lamas writes, if Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans both step away from the MCU, could Black Panther become the new face for Marvel? I don't know. I mean, you could ask that about just about any character. I mean, a lot of people are asking that about Doctor Strange with Benedict Cumberbatch, and they do very much set him up. Even if you look at Thor Ragnarok, Doctor Strange is set up as very much an authority figure all of a sudden. So maybe a mixture of that. I mean, I don't think both Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans are stepping away. I just don't think that's happening. But if it did, and if it does, I could totally see a Doctor Strange and Black Panther kind of assuming that. That or, I don't know. I don't know who else. It is possible. He is a king. He's super rich. He's a leader, obviously. He's smart. He's educated. I mean, there's a lot of arguments to be made about why T'Challa could fill in that role and Doctor Strange. So we'll have to wait and see. Interesting question. Tracy E. writes, I saw your spoiler reviews for Black Panther on YouTube Wednesday. Why do reviewers put them up before the movie premieres? Oh, no, you didn't see my spoiler review. Okay, no, you saw. So I was going to say, I did not put up a spoiler review. I saw a spoiler review. I don't know. I think it's a bad practice. I really do. I think it is a very bad practice. And I understand. Look, I get it. I'm not here to vilify anybody who does. Okay, I'm just going to tell you why I vehemently disagree with putting up spoiler reviews before the vast majority of people have had an opportunity to see it. Like, I'm going to put mine up on Sunday. That means you've had a chance to see it Thursday, you've had a chance to see it Friday, and you've had a chance to see matinees on Saturday. So I think a lot of people then are covered. I feel safe putting up a spoiler review at that point. The reason I am vehemently against it, and I've mentioned this before, and again, I'm not trying to vilify anybody who does, okay? Don't twist my words. Because I get why you'd want to do it. You want to be the first person out there with a spoiler review so people will come and watch it. Here's the problem, though. And this is a systemic problem. You put up your spoiler review, all right, of a movie before the audience, the vast majority of the audience have even had the opportunity to see the movie yet. What you have now done is you have equipped jerks with all the spoilers to the movie, and now all those jerks, if they want to be asses about it, they can all go now to all the other forums and on Twitter and in chat boards, and they now have all the spoilers. They can drop spoilers and ruin it for everybody. And you're the one who's equipped them to do it. When you put out spoiler reviews, even before people have had the chance to see it, like once it opens Thursday night and it's out on Friday, you've had the chance to see it. You may not have seen it yet, but you had the chance to see it. When you put out spoiler reviews before people even have a chance to see the movie, you are equipping people to go out and spoil it for everybody. And that's why I am firmly against posting spoiler reviews really early like that. I get why they do it. You're going to get a lot of hits if you're one of the first people to put it up. I understand it. And I'm not trying to vilify people who do. I'm just saying I would love to call a council of all the biggest online movie pundits and say, everybody come and counsel, get the 100 of the top online movie pundits and say, everybody come to LA for one day. We need to have a big sit-down meeting. One of the items I would put on that agenda is we need to agree that we are damaging the online fan community by doing super early spoiler reviews. Because what we are doing is equipping the trolls to go around and spoil it for everybody else who doesn't want it. These trolls who wouldn't have seen an advanced screening yet get all the information from the movie from you, and now they're going to go out and spoil it for everybody else. And I would love to have a Congress, a council of online film pundits, and just say, we need to address this. And we need to agree together not to do this. It's bad for the online film community. It's not healthy for the online fan community. And we need to stop. Again, I understand why people want to do it. I do. I get it. It makes business sense. I get it. But I also think we're damaging the fan community by doing it. So anyway, there's that. Last couple of questions here. Dirk Walker writes, as a huge Firefly fan, I would love to see Joss Whedon give sci-fi space adventure another shot, especially if it's in the MCU. Hey man, I just love seeing anything Joss Whedon does. I just think he's got such a fresh take, what he called magic fairy dust that he puts on stuff. I just love the personality he brings to things. I just think he makes those things really entertaining. Watch Serenity, the movie, by the way, if you haven't. DAL Official writes, do you have any thoughts on the new film Isle of Dogs by Wes Anderson coming in May? I'm very excited about it. I do not think the trailers have been all that good. And I'm in the minority there. People are losing their minds over the trailer. I watch the trailer and I go, I don't see anything special here. But it's Wes Anderson, and I think he's going to tell a great story. Therefore, I am excited to see it. I think the movie's going to be really good. I just don't think the trailers have been all that good. So the trailers have not hyped me more. But I do think the movie will be good, and I'm excited to see it. Mike Thompson writes, would you rather see a Scorsese-directed Power Rangers movie or a Zack Snyder-directed period piece about the ethics of slavery during the Civil War? I'll go with Scorsese in a Power Ranger movie because I think he could bring actual more depth to it. The flashbang boom ba action is not difficult stuff to do, at least on the Power Rangers level. If he could bring some actual drama to it, that would be great. Zack, who I'm a fan of Zack Snyder, that's not his strength. Those storytelling elements aren't necessarily his strength, so I'll go with the Scorsese directing a Power Ranger movie. Maybe One Name writes, how long would you like us to wait before we ask spoiler questions about Black Panther on the show? Saturday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is when I'm doing my spoiler review. Again, everybody's had the chance to see the movie by then. That is when I'm going to do my spoiler review. That's when you can start asking spoiler questions. Christopher Benson writes, saw Black Panther last night. Lupita Nyong'o is absolutely gorgeous. Lupita Nyong'o. You know how every couple has their list, about the person you're allowed to hook up with if you have the opportunity? Lupita Nyong'o's on my list. I mean, let's take aside what a stupidly talented actress she is for a second. She is world class. She has an Oscar on her mantle for a reason, and she's going to have more. Set that aside from a second. That's a separate issue. She is one of the most stunningly gorgeous women I have ever seen in my life. Every time she's on screen, there's just a part of me that's got like, hey, come on, John, focus. Oh my God, she's so beautiful. It's just nuts how beautiful she is. Then you add on top of that the world-class talent. That makes for a very appealing human being. A very appealing human being. Let's see. Where did we go? Salbagya writes, Godfather or its part 2, which you love more? I'm a Godfather guy. I'm an original Godfather guy. I know a lot of people prefer the sequel and consider the sequel like the greatest film of all time. I'm with the other people about the first one being the greatest film of all time. As to why, that's a half-hour expose that I'm not going to go into right now. But for me, it's the original Godfather. I love them both. There's no wrong answer there. But for me, it's the original Godfather. Amy Singh writes, if Marvel hires Whedon, should be for Fantastic Four so that it can finally be done with some justice, or he can return to direct a totally obscure property. Thoughts? Well, first of all, let's not forget Disney does not have Fantastic Four yet. Don't everybody seems to forget that. Everybody seems to think that it's a done deal now. Disney now owns Fantastic Four and X-Men. They don't. This is all subject to government approval. And the government may even force Fox to consider other offers for competitive stuff and for reasons like that. But this thing is at least a year, maybe 18 months away from being done. So don't forget, this is not a done deal. Disney does not own or have control of Fantastic Four or X-Men yet, or any Fox properties yet. It's not a done deal. Everybody's got to keep in mind. Now, it will probably get done. I would like to see Whedon do something more obscure. I mean, if he was going to do a Fantastic Four movie, I think the universe would lose its mind that finally somebody's going to do the Fantastic Four justice. But I would kind of like to see him do a more obscure character. Last two questions here, quick. Rex Cousins writes, watching award shows are like watching a Democratic National Convention. It's almost unbearable, but that's just my opinion. Keep up the good work. I love award shows. But no, let me rephrase that. There are a couple of award shows that I really enjoy watching. The Oscars being one of them. The Oscars are the movie awards. There are a bunch of others, but to me, the Oscars are the movie awards when the industry comes together to celebrate the art of filmmaking. And I love that. I love it. Besides Christmas, I've often said this and people think I'm joking, but I'm not. It is my second favorite day of the year besides Christmas is the Oscars. I love the Oscars, man. I get dressed up at home to watch the Oscars. I really do. And final question of the day, Annabelle writes, hey, John, do you watch like Korean movies? I think they probably have some of the best actors around. My favorite to date is War of the Arrows. No, generally speaking, I don't. I mean, there are a couple of Korean films that I've watched, for sure, ones that have become very popular in North American, but to be honest with you, I haven't watched a lot. It's not that I don't like Korean film. Not at all. I just haven't really watched a bunch. So I could sit here and lie to you and say that I have, but I haven't, to be honest with you. Although a few ones have popped up on the radar that I have watched. There was that one monster movie, I'm forgetting the name of it, that everybody lost their minds over. That was really good. But at any rate, generally speaking, no, not a lot. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Listen, guys, remember, let's make the online fan community an even better place. Remember that when we're discussing things, and the best thing about being a film fan is we can have different opinions, love and hate different things, and we can discuss and debate and argue with each other. That's great, but let's just remember that when we're engaging in those passionate debates with each other, that we're doing so with a fellow film fan. We're doing so with somebody else who is actually on our team. So let's be respectful of each other. Let's be passionate about our position and debate and discuss. But let's also remember we're discussing it with somebody else who's on our team, and we don't want to turn somebody off from being on our team. We don't want to be the types of people that turn people away from wanting to be film fans. So let's engage in those discussions and debates civilly. Also, don't forget, guys, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, click the thumbs up button. Make sure you're following me on this channel. All that good stuff. You can follow me on social media, on Twitter, simply at John Campea. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.